Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com, here with pool number 1 from our Modern Masters box. This is the one we showed with the pack openings, and this is going to end up being a Abzan tokens list. I think we do have to splash. This is one of the problems that I found with Modern Masters. Let me give you a little bit of a disclaimer. It's not as bad as I've been doing with the simulated on the websites. There's one good thing about Modern Masters 2015. I really think that it's going to give a huge advantage to deck builders, to people that are really good at building decks. And I hope I can put myself in that same class as a good deck builder. But because this took a lot more thought than I've previously experienced. Like, you really had to look at your pool and figure out the best composition. Sometimes, like in Konstantar Limited and a few other of the sealeds that I've played in, the blatant obvious choices is a lot of times just smacking you right in the face. And then what makes a good deck builder is to be able to really get as much juice out of it as possible. So, I mean, but for most people with a 6-pack pool, they're going to come up with something similar. This is going to be an easy one, this particular pool, just because of the double Ant Queen, and Ant Queen is by far one of the better rares in the set, but I still think that it took a lot of work to make this deck, and these other pools we've been messing around with from the other packs tend to seem to be similar. So anywho, I'm just going to show you this this pool here and what we ended up with. Now, it is again going to be an Abzan deck, and we're going to start off here with the one drops. I mean, I think black is worth splashing in here because it's going to be 3 out of our 5 removal. It's going to be black, but it's the first card that is going to be so good in this deck is going to be Plague Rusalka, as you have a ton of creatures. Ant Queen has the ability to pump out creatures. The Rusalka is going to be your way to control your opponent's board. And I'm just using Simic Initiator as basically just a filler slot. It's a graft 1, comes into play at the 1/1 counter. If it dies, you can move it onto something. And same thing with the Thallid here. When the Thallid dies, you can actually put in a 1/1 to replace it. So these actually have pretty good synergy with the Rusalka, both of them. We did get one of Orzhov Basilica as well, which does help out our curve pretty good, or help out our mana fixing pretty good. We had some Alloy Mirrors, as you saw. I'm not going to run them. I just don't think there's enough reason to put them in here, even though we did have the Edge Monstrosity. The one thing we've noticed is there's so much artifact hate in this set. One of the pools we pulled had like 6 different artifact hate cards. So I really think that you should veer away from running an artifact deck just based upon the amount of hate in every color that it has for it. And so that's just one of my reasons not even to splash. So if they have any main boarding, because we had a pool, and we'll show it later, with 2 of the not shrapnel blast, whatever the one that deals 3 damage when you destroy an opponent's artifact. And we're debating whether you want to main board them or not with just the amount of artifacts. Like, here's our pool. The piles of artifacts are as big as the piles of other colors. So artifacts are going to be a key component in most people's decks. So anyway, going on to the other slots, we don't have anything from that one slot until we have Raise the Alarms. Another reason with this is these are our token producers. We have a Scatter the Seeds, which can come out quite quickly. It's not quite a Triplicate Spirits, but it's close to a Triplicate Spirits. It's just 3 1/1 sapling creature tokens. We have a Spectral Procession, a Raise the Alarm, and a Necrogenesis, which are all very powerful token generators. So we're definitely going to use them in this strategy. And then we have 2 Thrive and 1 Fortify. Fortify can just be your attack for lethal with your tokens, and Thrive can actually, it feels kind of a weak one-time Gavany Township activation. As you can, if you have 5 guys out, it's quite easy to spend 6 mana to pump them all up. At the next slot, though, this is where Modern Masters gets a little bit, and I guess any limited pool from any set can be plagued by this. It's just not quite enough playables if it hits your theme. But a 4/4 for 4, we're just using that for its vanilla 4/4 for 4. Also, this Hikari Twilight, the Twilight Guardian is going to be in here basically as a 4/4 or 4/4 for 4 flying as well. And then we do have some cool synergies in the 4-drop slot. We have the Kavu Primarch. says kicker for 4. You can pay an additional 4, and it's got convoke, and convoke can also count towards the kicker. If it is kicked and enters the battlefield with 4+1/+1 counters on it, so it can become a 7/7. So it's just one of those cards. It's usually going to be a 3/3, but if you convoke it enough, and with our strategy, it can easily be a 7/7. Then we have the Kozilek's Predator. He basically adds 2/0/1 tokens, but with Thrive, it's not going to be bad, or Fortify. So another 3/3 for 4 mana, and then you get 2 more dudes. And you can also use them with Plague Rusalka. And then we have the Cytoplast Rootkin, which is a graph 4, which says when it dies, then you can move those counters. Or when it enters the battlefield, whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you can move the counters. So actually, yeah, Graft is... I was thinking Graft wrong, so Simic Initiate's not as good as I thought it was. But also when Cytoplast Rootkin enters the battlefield, put a +1 counter on each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter. So, pretty sweet card, and then you can move counters from it. Move a +1 counter from a target creature you control to it. So it can be a nice little combat trigger finisher right here. And then in our 7-drop slot, I just thought just because it's a good card, I usually shy away from using 7-drops, especially in a non-ramp type strategy. But the Palaka Worm is a 7/7 trampler for 7. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 7 life. And if it happens to die, you draw a card, so it's just value. But again, so far this was an okay deck. I'm okay with it. It's not the greatest thing ever, but I've seen worse pulls out of Limited. M14 really comes to mind. I've had some bad sealed pools in, I think Fate Reforged, one of them was terrible. I've loved Dragons of Tarkir and whatnot, but that's going to be pool number 1. So let's see what we skipped over. Blue, this is the problem I'm having with Modern Masters. We have like Proliferate, and we do have Proliferate in these colors that it wants to, but really not in the other not in the other colors. Like a Repeal, a Mana Leak, Thoughtcast. We do have enough artifacts to make an artifact deck, but just not enough good ones to justify it. And you're just kind of all over the place. Not really enough playables out of blue to justify it. Red, the highlights out of red, we had a Fire Slinger. We had some elementals, but not enough to make an elemental deck, not enough to really make an aggro deck. We have like these Etch Monstrosity in this with the Alloy Mirrors. Could think that we could make a 5-color deck, but it's just maybe draft will end up being a lot better than, but it's going to be tough. It's like if one other person is going your strategy in draft, they can really screw you out of making a complete deck. So black, we couldn't play the Sign in Bloods because we're 3-colored. Resembly Skeleton just doesn't seem worth it here. The aggro cards don't go in this deck. This is going to be our Bane card, Shrivel, if people use it against us. And we got some cool Spirit Arcane strategy going on, just not really enough to make it work. Now, out of our main deck, out of removal, we did get 2 Nameless Inversions, which are Changeling, and there are some Changeling cards that work great with the strategy. We have some nice sideboard cards out of white, like an Apostle's Blessing and a Celestial Purge. The Kami of Ancient Law will come against enchantments that we really need to worry about, but there really isn't a lot of enchantments we have to worry about. Pillar of the Sleepless and Arrest are 2 that come to mind, but good luck needing to kill a Daybreak Coronet on your opposing's field, as it's almost impossible to enchant that thing. And we have, again, Etch Monstrosity and the Alloy Mirrors out of the artifacts were also another kind of cool strategy we could have gone, but I decided against it. There just wasn't enough. And then we had some multicolor cards that were just way too hard with our pool to even justify trying. Cards I thought about were the Flare Husks. They're just 1/1s that I could attach after, they put out a germ, you put a counter on it, then I can safely put the equipment on something else. Spellskite's a good card. I can justify putting it in the 23, but I would like to see my opponent's deck before I really commit to that, because if he's not an aggro deck or something that deals direct damage to something or targets something, then it's not really worth Spellskite. Vines of the Vastwood feels like Apostle's Blessing to me. I don't think that we don't really need to pump it up as a 4/4 anything in this deck, so it's okay. And Conclave Phalanx are great sideboard cards. I just couldn't justify them main board. I don't think if we had like more Raise the Alarms, we could really think about getting this out on turn 3 as a 2/4, but even on turn 3 a 2/4 is not anything to write home to mom about. But the really ability is just going to stabilize us versus any sort of aggro deck. So we actually might do some play testing with this. This will probably be the deck that I'll play to show you how well it works. And we'll go on to the other pools. So I'd really like to know in your comments what you would do differently with this. But I think the obvious choice is to go some sort of green-white token-based strategy with this. We'll show you some other pools in another video. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.